All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the program. And today we're going to talk about how we're going to make it a little bit more efficient to revisit our dreams throughout the day. Because in the last segment of the program, we talked about reviewing our dreams in that imbibing style many times throughout the day. And for me, at least, it got to be a pain in the ass. So I was like, I don't want to do
As
this.
it should for most people.
I don't want to read my dreams multiple times a day. So it's like these scratchy, horrible notes that are like, half make sense or whatever. So anyway, we're going to use a technique of mind mapping to condense our dreams down to much smaller little windows or icons into that whole experience. So maybe you can just kind of tell us like exactly like how we're going to do that. And there's a few things I think we should really touch on about that too. So
Sure. So first you'll take, review your dreams and not like read through them all, but I mean, basically you go back as far as you want. And, as far as we're concerned, let's say if you just started doing this maybe 4 weeks ago, so you have as many dreams recorded as 4 weeks worth of dreams. Once you get this going, you could probably even do just the last week or so, right? So, because we're looking for patterns, as we said before. But what you want to do, because it's just like you said, it's like not everybody's dream notebooks look like mine, where they're just like these short synopsis of things, right? Because it's condensed over time. So, but when they were longer, I mean, that can take, a longer time to go through, because it's funny how, we'll read through them, but we're not just trying to just, read through them, like just read the words, right? We're actually trying to sort of bring them up a bit. And so when we do that, it takes a lot longer than the classic imbibing technique would infer, right? So it's just like a minute, 2 minutes, is imbibing. That's the way I look at it. So, and that can be a lot. So this is a way to condense the dream down. And in a way, it's almost mimicking the way the subconscious talks to us, right? Because we know in a dream, it's symbolic, right? So it's very, very rare when we just get literal information, told to us. So, or interact in that way, right? So it's basically everything is a symbol of something else, and a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? So in a way, in this mind mapping technique for the dreams, you're mimicking back to the subconscious the way it's speaking to you, right? It's like you're taking this event and consolidating it down to a key word or a few words that are like the crux of that dream, right? So forget about the periphery stuff. That stuff will all come into play. You'll remember it if you choose the right key words, right? Like once you put that down, if it was about, your a past pet or something like that, it's like you just write down, spot. That's it, right? And then all of a sudden, when you look at that, it comes back, right? And the way we do a mind map is you just put the key word or a few words down that remind you of the whole scenario, and you just put it in a circle on a piece of paper, blank piece of paper. And usually I usually put them like in, around the page in odd places, right? And so, because that's the way our mind usually works, right? It's not a linear path. It's sort of just, it connects in all kinds of different territories, right? So, we're sort of in a linear way putting it on paper that way as well, right? So again, you're going to write down that key word. And then if you start to see after, let's say you do 7 days, so there'll be 7 circles there, 1 for each. And if you start to notice from that there's something that's linking all of those together, like a central theme or a pattern, that's what I put in the center. So it's sort of like I can even consolidate my week's worth of dreams in a single phrase or a single word, or maybe just a symbol, that's there. So if it's all, if everyone is, oh, I had a dream about, having conversation with my father near a brook near our house when I was a kid, fishing with my brother, a trip that we took as a family to someplace else, friends of mine bringing me to Maine, whitewater rafting over here. It's like the central theme there isn't family, although it looks like that to some degree, it's going to be water, right? So it's like I'll put water in the center. And so depending on your correspondence for water, for me, water is emotion, right? So depending on what scenario that is, so all of my dreams around that week, were around water, which means that I'm dealing with a lot of emotional things, of different areas, or those are the things that are most coming up from my subconscious. So when you do your imbibing, all you have to look at is those key words, right? And then it's just like an icon on your computer, right? So it's like, here's a document, there's the icon for it. I push on that and the whole 100-page document comes up, right? But I know that the icon represents that whole 100-page document. Well, the same thing with these keywords, right? The keyword represents the whole dream. It's just that for sake of brevity, and I'm looking for that symbol that will reflect back to me and cue my memory into that whole dream. It'll kind of let it come out and through me. So, and that's very easy to do in a minute or 2 minutes, right? It's not like something where you have to read pages of a journal, within a minute or 2 minutes, where you're just running your eyes over the page and you don't have enough time to do all that. So
Right. So
I think it's a much better way to do it.
yeah. So, I did it for a couple days just to practice for this. And I found that it was like so much easier to go back and review my dreams because I found so much resistance to doing that. It wasn't just about like reading through it. It was like, it's like too much work or too confusing or something, but it really simplified things in a way that just made it so much easier to do.
Right.
The other thing that we were talking about was, this kind of dream interpretation and asking yourself a question, right? So, and using this technique for that aspect of dreaming, of understanding your dreams and establishing that language with your subconscious seems really important too, because, one of those things that I have a hard time with is like looking at my dreams and trying to understand them in like make sense of them in this kind of logical, rational way. And the other day you said when we're going into our subconscious, we're going beyond rational thought. And
Right.
and so maybe like you can talk about how mind mapping facilitates that. I mean, but it makes sense. So
Well, because your mind is pulling from all kinds of resources, right? Past resources right now, whatever you have available that you're trying to figure out, and projecting forward too, right? What if? And so, when the mind is grasping with a problem, it's using every territory that it can come up with, right? And those people that we call geniuses, or people that are really good about problem solving, right? They seem to go just beyond that point, right? Where it's like they're even delving into things that seemingly have no relevance at the time, right? But they'll pull from those resources. They can't figure out why that's, they're dealing with this mathematical problem, but they're trying to figure out why do they keep thinking about something that seems not related to that, right? But when they look at it a little bit more closely and they actually entertain those ideas, they go, oh, there's some principle there that can help me solve this math problem or something similar to that, right? So we're drawing on resources, a lot of resources that we don't consciously even know that we're drawing on. And so that's the way the mind works. It's not this linear process, like tell me everything I need to know about the history between 1500 and 1600 or, whatever. So it's like it's pulling from all of these other resources and trying to offer you as many connecting values as possible. But we're not always, it doesn't know to shut that off or how much we can actually take, the subconscious. And, we can't cipher through that much information, right? So it's like we're looking for those key symbols, the key words. And this is a way to facilitate that and send that feedback loop back in, right? So it's like, he keeps touching on all of these icons which represent this week's worth of dreams with this key core idea of this. And that's not always necessary to have that. So if you can't figure out a pattern or a key or a core idea that links all of them, that's not a problem, right? It's like, just do the, the key word or a few words for each of the dreams, and that's it. The core idea of each dream, right? And that's all you need to do. So when you do your imbibing, you're just basically, again, making yourself, a couple breaths, whatever, relax as much as possible, bring your awareness to your heart. And so, you sort of open that up a little bit. Remember, wherever you bring your awareness is where your energy flows, right? So it concentrates and expands that out a bit. And since we know that the heart and the brain are synced in a loop, right? At least those two, if not more. But those two are the ones we're incorporating right now, that any signals that I'm getting, how I felt about the dream, gets pushed back into the brain, right? Back into the mind, and then back through again. And so it sort of makes this feedback loop and enhances the experience, right? And so it's like I'm having it just by reading those keywords. It's like I'm going through the dream again and again and again through the course of a day or through the course of a week, right? If I keep doing that technique. So you're really compound, it's like compound interest on the amount of attention and awareness you're putting on your dreams, which is only going to bring up, your subconscious to put more attention on it and to, guide you into the states that once you have that intention to do, it's going to go, oh, okay, here's a new command for this. Let's follow through and do this. Let's give them some more information about this, or let's help them into this space that I need to be, or that, Dustin wants to be in, or Brian wants to be in, whatever. Okay. So it's quite simple. I mean, we can tear it apart, but basically, it's a very fruitful exercise and a way to save you time, right? In the imbibing technique, because imbibing really should be from 1 to 5 minutes. That's it, right? It should just be a very straightforward, whatever amount of time you have during the day. I usually say a minute just because it's a nice round number to say, like, anybody can find a minute several times a day, no matter how busy you are. So, and this way it's very productive. I mean, it's not just a minute of reading rote stuff as fast as you can move your eyes across the page.
Which is what I was doing before.
Right. But it has no impact, right? Because there's no juice there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no emotion to it except maybe frustration of, having to read through the thing, or like it's a pain in the ass. Like you said, you got to read through all this and I only have a minute. So how far can I get? And, all kinds of things that conflict come into play. So this way, you're saving yourself time and you're getting more emotional impact from it. So more awareness of the subconscious on the actual dreams themselves and the process of dreaming, right? So that's what we're trying to spur, and move into the forefront of our practice, basically.
Right. Great. So for the next couple of weeks, obviously we're just going to continue, like you said, in that first week, the practice of recording our dreams. That doesn't really stop. As long as we want to pursue this, it's important to continue to record them. And now, once we record them, if we can start to distill them into these simplified mind maps, with just pictures, with icons, with symbols on a page, it's going to make it a lot easier for us to review them, and also even perhaps get more insights from them through the questions that we ask, right? Because we're going to start to make connections that we might not have been able to make when it was all written out in a linear form like that.
That's true, and that's why I say, like, a lot of times you'll see patterns come up once you've done the mind mapping exercise that you never recognized before, because we were asking too broad a question, like, where are the connections and all of these, it's like too many words, too much material to go through to make these connections. When we isolate it to the key words, sometimes they just pop out at you and go like, oh my gosh, like I made the sample with the water, right? So it's like, oh, it was a dream about my dad. It was a dream about when I was a little kid and fishing with my brother. It's like, in my mind, it's like, oh, and a talk with my dad. Oh, fishing with my brother. Oh, my friends taking me someplace, but they were all around. The central theme of all of those was water. And so, that's where the crux went. And then, then you can sort of interpret these things from a different way, right? Because then it repeats back. So if my correspondence with water is emotions, then I'm like, what was the emotional content of that conversation with my dad? What was the emotional content of fishing with my brother? What was the emotional content of my friends bringing me to a place that I'd never been before? All of that stuff. So it's like it really, it narrows the field down so that you can focus on what's important and, exclude the rest, right? Remember, it's always good to remind yourself, you'll never, sorry, I keep repeating myself, but I never find that, this is something that I find that people often have a fear of unconsciously, really, that like if they don't interpret the dream right, or if they can't figure out the meaning, then they're missing some vital information somehow. And that's just, you can relax, just that's crap. Okay, if something or even yourself is trying to give you vital information for your survival, believe me, you'll get it. Okay, it's like don't worry about it. Don't put that extra stress on yourself that you're going to miss some key thing in a specific dream. Really, if there is, and it doesn't happen very often, but if there is some vital information that you need to have, believe me, your subconscious will keep hammering you with it. It won't let you rest. It won't let you, you'll have the same recurring dream or, a variation of the same thing. It will keep hammering you until you actually get, oh, there's something here I need to pay attention to. So no worries about that. Let that go. I have found over the years that that's a common concern for most people, and why they feel almost afraid not to try to interpret their dream or not to understand it. It can be a frustrating thing. And it's like, don't worry. If it's vital, your subconscious will keep poking at you until you get it. So there's no worry about that.
Okay, cool. Great. That definitely helps because, I've definitely felt the pressure of like, okay, I'm going to go down this road and start to interpret these things. And I always feel like, well, I'm probably going to get it wrong. So what are the chances?
What are the chances? Or, everybody's worried that there's going to be some crucial, but I gave you the lottery number 3 days ago. How come you didn't play it? It's like, it's nothing like that. Or, you shouldn't have got on that plane or whatever. I told you that was going to happen. It's like, don't fret about that stuff. If it's something really vital to your survival, believe me, your subconscious will not let it go, and it will keep pushing at you, waking and dreaming. It'll keep pushing the topic until you finally, wake up and get it.
And in this case, the real focus is being able to put more of that emotional energy into dreaming and being able to tap on those things easily, right?
The emotion's the juice that gets you there, right? So it's like if we don't, if there's no emotion to something, it's very difficult to actually, spend a lot of time with it. Or, even for people that deal with, like, I don't know, not to slam anybody, but like, for some reason, there are people that love numbers, right? Working with numbers. I would imagine some accountants are just like thrilled with making things balance. They get a little dopamine rush when it balances, when the books balance, right? And so for them, there's some emotion there, of going up against something that's difficult and making all the figures work, and how can they do it this way and that way? And there's some, dopamine rush at the end when they're there. So they're emotionally involved in that, where for most of us, we'd be like, oh, this is so boring and frustrating. It's like, please, Calgon, take me away. It's like, this is awful. So, and that may be the case with a lot of things, right? But, so the emotion is the juice of it, right? We really don't stick with anything for very long if there's no, there's got to be, you got to be engaged in it, right? And so, so why would you relegate, something as exciting as lucid dreaming and the potential for it to change your life on a lot of different levels? Why would you relegate that to a place of no emotion, right? It's like that's incongruent. That dog don't hunt, It's like, don't go there, right? It's like, you want it to stay exciting as the first time, or as exciting as, the first time you even read and thought maybe that's possible, right? There's that little spark of, oh my God, what if that's really true? What if that's right? What could I do with that? So you want to kind of keep that up, and it's not artificial. That's not what we're talking about, right? It's like by spurring that on and then getting more and more, hits with that, it's going to, initiate that long-term engagement with that practice, right? And bring it up even faster than it normally would.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. So that should definitely make things a lot easier, and hopefully provide a new way of looking at our dreams. But that whole idea that you presented of going beyond rational thought, it was like, because the other day you were talking to me and I was trying to get you to explain, I think it was something about, dream symbolism or whatever, or how you interpret dreams, or how you go about these things. And you were like, how do you know what to do next on a painting? And I was just like, but yeah, I don't know. I can't like,
No,
I don't know. It's an intuitive process, right? So like taking
right.
this, and this written out form of our dreams and turning it into a picture, I think it just makes so much sense. It's a way to go beyond like linear thinking, a way to go beyond rational thought, to look at it as a picture and just take it all in at once. And so I think that's going to be a really cool technique and provide a lot of insights, and make the imbibing thing a whole lot easier. So I hope people really enjoy that part. So.
Well, just as one last thing, I mean, that maybe this way of thinking about it will touch for some people a way to understand it a little bit more clearly too. It's like when we first start dreaming, I mean, our dreams aren't very rational, right? I mean, it's like there's lots of crazy stuff going on. We don't know how we get there. It's like, and we take a lot of stuff that's crazy. Like in this world, we'd be freaking out, right, if stuff were happening the way it happens in our dreams. And but in the dream, a lot of times we just kind of go with it, right? It's like, oh, gee, everybody's, going to the bathroom in the living room, and nobody seems to it doesn't make a difference, and everybody's okay with it, and it's all good. It's like, what? But here it'd be like, you'd be like, what are you doing? And so that irrationality, the point is that, we try to come at lucid dreaming from a point of rationality. And I think a lot of people have this misguided idea that you're going to get into a lucid dream and everything's going to be rational from there. And that's just a wrong idea, right? For me, it's more like, this is already an established territory. My subconscious is there. It's been there forever. And so, it's an infinite place. And it's talking, and I'm interacting with it in a symbolic way, and everything there is symbolic. And so that's not always rational, right? It doesn't seem rational to us when we're trying to put symbols in a linear fashion, right? Like the way our speech would be, or the way we interact with people here. And so, so already I have a bad preconceived idea, right? That I'm going to get lucid and everything's going to become rational. It's like, no, it won't. And so why wouldn't I prepare myself to just go on its terms, like right from the beginning? I expect things to be a little bit off, right? It's like, I'm not going there and thinking, okay, I'm gonna lucid dream now, and I'm gonna move into a lucid dream, and I do, and then I expect everything to be just like it is here, and it's not. And so already there's an incongruency. I'm like, okay, now what do I do? Or I try to interact with things in the same way, and it's like, no, you don't, right? And especially not in the beginning. It's still kind of like how long, give or take, was your last lucid dream before you flipped into a regular dream, or before you woke up, right? There's like, you realize it, and it's like, oh my God, I'm awake. Yeah, boom, back awake, or off into a regular dream, or whatever it is, right? So like, don't even put it in your mind. Don't make one more barrier that it's like, not disappointing, but like it doesn't match your expectations, right? Like you get in, and if you go in expecting it to be strange, then you're not surprised, right? And remember that surprise a lot of times is the key trigger that wakes you up.
Not wakes you up in a good way, wakes you
No,
up.
it wakes you up like you're back in bed,
Right.
back to normal, right? So, um, and so if I go, sort of expecting there to be some odd things, or I'm not, things are sharper, or things are like, wow, this is really real. I didn't expect it to be this real, or whatever. Um, then it's like, okay, you can kind of somehow uh, you can jive with that a lot better than if you think it's going to be like, if I can just be lucid, everything will become rational. It's like, that's a non-starter. You're only going to be, more frustrated, because it's not, in the beginning at least, it's not going to work that way, right? You need to sort of get in on its terms and sort of, swim in those waters for a while and just be awake and aware, right? How long can I stay here? What can I do? Oh, let me have an adventure. I don't know where the adventure is going to take me, but woohoo, let's just go with it, whatever happens, right? So it's like, if that's not your normal personality, I mean, it wasn't mine initially. So it was like, it took me a little while to integrate that into, my mindset going in there. Like, okay, I'm just going to go in, and when I become lucid, I'm just going to go with it and see, if I'm in this place, I'm going to go here. And if I'm going to, it's like, you just sort of, you move with it. It's like an adventure again. I like that word, because it really is that, you're betting the farm that you can handle what comes up.
Yeah.
It's like you have everything you need, hopefully, and you're just going to move in there, and you're going to, deal with as best as you can in the most flexible way with whatever shows up, right? But it's not going to be the normal, rational way that things happen here in those sequences.
It brings up another good point, I think, is that, when we're talking about doing energy work, or any time that we want to manifest something new, or change our life by putting something new into our subconscious, a lot of times it's like, I think that we come to it with the expectation that when it works, it will happen in some kind of a controlled way. Like, I'm going to get it right, flip a switch, say the right word, do the right meditation, and it will happen in this way that I'm expecting it to happen, or whatever. And I feel like the key thing is that I am getting now is that whenever you're doing something with and through your subconscious, it's it's beyond rationality, and it's beyond your ability to expect the exact outcome that you're going to get, or the way that that thing's going to come about.
Especially the way that it will come about. I think that's the key point, right? It's like, I mean, think about it this way. And I used to say it to students this way, like, and they, when they start telling me what they want, if we were in that place, and they're going into the lucid state, or they're doing some other kind of energy work to produce that, it's when they started to get to the point where they were dictating how that was going to happen, like a linear process of, this will happen, then this will happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, with all these ramifications. And I'm like, for me, it's like, why would you hogtie the universe? Okay, you have your human mind, which may be great, but at the same time, how many different ways could you think about solving a problem, realistically, right? And good solutions. I mean, we can think of the crazy ones, but it's like good solutions, right? But then you have this universal intelligence that has infinite wisdom, infinite knowledge, right? And so, and why would I dictate to something that has every possible way of doing this available to it, and can produce it any way that it wants, right? All I have to be, compared to my my effort in maybe a half dozen ways that I could probably get this done. Why do I need to force it into that form, when there may be 1,000 ways that it could think of it to get it done quicker, better, and and more efficiently, and with a better outcome. I can't put my mind there, right? I haven't been able to bring that up, obviously, or I wouldn't still have the problem. So, don't hogtie the universe. It's like, get in there and go with it. It's like, just, that's why I'm always, my major thing is once you do something, it's like you're becoming hyper vigilant, right? You're being super observational, really sort of opening yourself to any possibilities that might come to you for the next few days, or however long the time limit that you've given this stuff to start producing for you, right? I'm looking for any opportunities to, add a little push here, energetically say the right word there, and, when opportunities come and I take them, right? It's like, oh, then I put some action toward that, right? I take that opportunity and I go with it, right? And see how that widens the path, right? See if it makes it a clearer way for me to go to solve that problem or to produce a better outcome that I'm looking for. So yeah, don't try not to. You will, but try not to dictate, exactly how it needs to go. Just say, like, here's my end result. That's all I care about. As long as it's in a good way for me, to do that. And then, be open to whatever possibilities present themselves, so that you'll be much more effective and, much more efficient with time if you, let infinite intelligence, in this case, through your subconscious, if we're talking strictly about lucid dreaming, right? Then, it's that operating system between your mind and God's mind, right? So it's like in that subconscious, you have access to, infinite number of ways to solve any problem. So why would you keep it into this very narrow territory, compared to what it would have to offer, right? So that's one of the ways that I think about it when I'm there. If I'm problem solving and those types of things, I'm sort of opening it up to any possibility and trusting that I have enough resources, which is not always the case, right? I mean, I've been flummoxed before with all this stuff, right? And like, oh, just can't get through that one challenge, right? So, I'll go back in and I'll say, maybe we should try a different challenge. Maybe we should try a different way. Maybe one I could get through. And so, to sort of solve it, right? So it doesn't mean that everyone is absolutely viable for you. But why would I discount anything until I try it? And why would I try to keep it in such a tight wrapper that, all these other resources are sort of left on the sidelines, right? It doesn't, to me, that just never made any sense. So I sort of like to think about it that way when I go in, and that may be a bit of that adventure kind of attitude as well, right? Like, you're not really sure where it's going to come from. You're not really sure where the best idea is going to come from. And so, running through these scenarios or going through these adventures when you're in there will bring to light, some way to get through the problem that you've brought in with you, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's probably as much as I have to say about that. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure that'll come up many, many times, because it really is about being as, not wishy-washy, but as flexible as you can. And, through experience and repetition, as confident as you can when you go in there, knowing that you have everything that you need, to engage it in a good way. So doesn't mean you're going to be successful every single time, but it definitely means that you'll have the right attitude of, an explorer. It's like, what's around this corner? What's up here? What's there? What do I need to pay attention to here? Kids are usually pretty good at this because of the whole gaming thing, right? What if I push this square? What if I do this? What if I do, looking for the clues and moving through their games or whatever it is, but, we sort of have to recapture some of that and that adventurous attitude that we had when we were kids, right?
Right. And I think that the mind mapping will help with that, because it'll make it a little bit less daunting and feel a little bit more, simple and accessible. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Definitely.
So, all right. So, we'll start utilizing that for our imbibing technique for the next couple of weeks, and we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, man.
Hey, you're welcome.
Talk to you guys later.